Alright, hi students, welcome to the second video that continues from where we left off. Now, before we start on this new concept that we are going to learn, I just want to bring our attention to your notes itself. So let's take a look at your notes. Okay, please take a look at page 8. Okay, so on page 8, just a reminder to actually construct a table to compare and contrast between the structures for animal cells as well as that seen in plant cells. So please tidy this up so that when you come back to school, you can actually go through this part. For now, we're actually going to move on to page 9, where we'll talk a bit more about how exactly are cells being organized to eventually form organisms. So let's go back to the slides. Now, before we continue with the proper part of the notes, I just thought that maybe it's good for us to actually explore exactly about this concept called cancerous cell. Now, some of you might have heard of this word called cancer, and you might be thinking to you right now in this chapter that since you have been learning about cells, you might be wondering how exactly are cells, or rather normal healthy cells, different from your cancerous cells. So let's take a look at this video before we delve deeper into the organization of cells to form organisms.
We all start life as one single cell. Then that cell divides and we're 2 cells, then 4, then 8. Cells form tissues, tissues form organs, organs form us. These cell divisions, by which we go from a single cell to 100 trillion cells, are called growth. And growth seems like a simple thing because when we think of it, we typically think of someone getting taller, or later in life, wider. But to cells, growth isn't simple. Cell division is an intricate chemical dance that's part individual, part community-driven. And in a neighborhood of 100 trillion cells, sometimes things go wrong. Maybe an individual cell's set of instructions, or DNA, gets a typo, what we call a mutation. Most of the time, the cell senses mistakes and shuts itself down, or the system detects a troublemaker and eliminates it. But enough mutations can bypass these fail-safes, driving the cell to divide recklessly. That one rogue cell becomes 2, then 4, then 8. At every stage, the incorrect instructions are passed along to the cell's offspring. Weeks, months, or years after that one rogue cell transformed, you might see your doctor about a lump in your breast. Difficulty going to the bathroom could reveal a problem in your intestine, prostate, or bladder. Or a routine blood test might count too many white cells or elevated liver enzymes. Your doctor delivers the bad news. It's cancer. From here, your strategy will depend on where the cancer is and how far it's progressed. If the tumor is slow growing and in one place, surgery might be all you need, if anything. If the tumor is fast growing or invading nearby tissue, your doctor might recommend radiation or surgery followed by radiation. If the cancer has spread or if it's inherently everywhere like a leukemia, your doctor will most likely recommend chemotherapy or a combination of radiation and chemo. Radiation and most forms of chemo work by physically shredding the cell's DNA or disrupting the copying machinery. But neither radiation nor chemotherapeutic drugs target only cancer cells. Radiation hits whatever you point it at, and your bloodstream carries chemotherapeutics all over your body. So what happens when different cells get hit? Let's look at a healthy liver cell, a healthy hair cell, and a cancerous cell. The healthy liver cell divides only when it's stressed. The healthy hair cell divides frequently, and the cancer cell divides even more frequently and recklessly. When you take a chemotherapeutic drug, it will hit all of these cells. And remember that the drugs work typically by disrupting cell division, so every time a cell divides, it opens itself up to attack. And that means that the more frequently a cell divides, the more likely the drug is to kill it. So remember that hair cell? It divides frequently and isn't a threat. And there are other frequently dividing cells in your body like skin cells, gut cells, and blood cells. So the list of unpleasant side effects of cancer treatment parallels these tissue types: hair loss, skin rashes, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, weight loss, and pain. That makes sense because these are the cells that get hit the hardest. So in the end, it's all about growth. Cancer hijacks cells' natural division machinery and forces them to put the pedal to the metal, growing rapidly and recklessly. But using chemotherapeutic drugs, we take advantage of that aggressiveness, and we turn cancer's main strength into a weakness.
As you can see from this slide, you realize that there seems to be a level of organization within our body, from the smallest cell all the way to who we are today. So today we are actually going to explore this question, which is how does an animal cell actually forms humans or other animals? So here are your K-pop idols. So how do cells eventually give rise to all these individuals? Or how do cells in fact give rise to animals, vertebrates, invertebrates, etc.? Same thing, we're also going to explore how do plant cells eventually give rise to pods of plants, right? So your pods of plants are definitely made up of a million or billions of cells, but how do all these cells slowly organize themselves until you have what you see now? So first thing that we need to realize is that for multicellular organisms, the cells actually comes in different types of shapes and sizes. As we have learned in the previous video, there are different cells such as your nerve cells, your red blood cells, your white blood cells, etc. And each type of this cell actually has a specialized job, a specific job that allows the organism to function. So these cells are actually what we call specialized cells. Now specialized, right, from this word itself, you know that it means that the cells have a special function. Okay, so some of these cells are red blood cell, nerve cells, gut cells. Now gut cells is actually found at the base of leaves. Okay, so it's a type of plant cell. As you can see from the shape, right, it's not your typical plant cell. And this brings us to what we mentioned in the previous video, which is that the models that we learned, right, be it the circular animal cell or the rectangular plant cells, are just models at the end of the day. Because the actual cell can actually come in different sizes, different shapes. So as you can see over here, red blood cell, nerve cells, although they are all animal cells, they actually have different forms. And this is because they have specific function that they need to do. Unfortunately, we only need to do this activity when you come back to school. So for now, I'll just skip through this part. But basically what I want you all to do is to have this mindset that when you come back to school, we'll spend more time to actually research on how each of these specialized cells function, so that you can find out more about why do they actually look like this. Why don't they look like a circular shape? Why don't red blood cell and nerve cell look the same? Right? So using that, we will actually use that as a research project when we come back to school. But for now, let me continue with the slides. So you actually need to skip through page 9 for the entire table of details. It's okay, just leave it blank. We'll go through this when we meet again. So let's move on to page 10. Now I just want to let you know that specialized cells, right, when you organize them, they can actually form what we call tissues. Now this tissue is not your normal tissue paper, okay? These tissues are actually certain structures that you can find inside the body of an organism. After that, the tissues is being organized into what we call organs, and then eventually you get your organ systems. And from your organ system, you actually form your organisms, which is your living things. So let's start with the first level of organization, from specialized cells to tissues. When you have many cells of the same type, or rather many specialized cells of the same type, they are working together to perform the same function, they actually make up what we call a tissue. Okay, so as long as you have a group of cells of the same type, we want to highlight all the words that are in the yellow boxes, and they are working together for the same function, we should term this as a tissue. So some examples of animal tissues are nerve tissues. Now since it's called nerve tissues, right, it must only be made out of nerve cells. Other type is made out of your connective tissue. Connective tissues are made out of cells that allows us to join different parts of the organisms together. Okay, some examples of connective tissues are, example, your bone tissue, which are made out of your bone cells. And then of course you have your muscle tissue, which are made out of your muscle cells. As you can see on the right side, you see all this diagram on the slide itself, right? The one at the top is actually, if you look at it, it actually seems like there's 5 different cells together, or rather 5 similar cells grouping together. This is actually what we call the nerve tissue, and each of the thing that you see over here is one nerve cell. Look at the second image, it looks like there's a lot of things inside, all these tiny circles, right? Each of them is a cell, and because it's a group together, this is your connective tissue. And look at the last one at the bottom, you see all these overlooking shape that's in red. Okay, you see all these which are your muscle cells, and this is actually your muscle tissue. But perhaps at this point in time, I just want to point out that if you look closely at the structure, right, you realize that for the lowest image over here, you see all these dark black color circles that I'm shading now in blue. Now these are not cells. In fact, they are found inside the cell, and there are this dense structure that is found inside the cell. It's circular over here. Do you still remember what this is? Okay, I hope you still remember a bit about this. Basically, this is actually your nucleus. So you can see that there's a lot of cell because there's a lot of nucleus throughout this entire tissue. Moving on, let's take a look at how the plant's tissues look like. Now for the plants itself, right, this is actually a part of the plant stem. Okay, if you use a microscope to look at a plant stem, right, you can actually see this particular view. Okay, somebody, if you have the phobia, right, you're not very used to all these small circular structures, right, you realize that you will not feel very comfortable with a lot of the image that you see in a microscope, because most of the time cells are very, very small and they are in many, they are always packed in large numbers when you're in a tissue. Okay, so for the plant itself, right, some examples of plant tissues are what I call the supporting tissues. Now the supporting tissues actually provide supports for the plants, so it's made of a specific type of specialized cells. The second type is what I call the vascular tissue. Now the vascular tissue are found throughout the entire plant, and their purpose is to actually carry food and water to different parts of the plant. So the vascular tissue is made of cells which has functions to help to carry food and water to different parts of the plant. So in this diagram, you'll see that the vascular tissue is actually marked out by this group over here. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of cells within it, and the supporting tissue is the surface that's around it. So this entire area that's around it is the supporting tissue. You're not really required to actually label all this tissue, but it's important for you to understand that plants and animals, when you have a specific group of cells working together for a same function, this is what I call a tissue. Next, how do you organize from tissues to organs? Now from tissues to organs, the definition seems about the same, but now when you have many different tissues working together for a similar function, this is what we call an organ. You realize that it's always about serving a certain function, and that is why we actually have all this organizational level, because at the end of the day, all these little parts is meant to keep us alive, to keep an organism functioning, so that it can go about with its daily activities. So different parts must be able to serve different functions. Some examples of animal organs are actually your brain, heart, kidney, stomach, liver. There's a lot more. You have your lungs, you have your eyes, etc. I just want to give you some additional ones, so if you're interested, you can go and Google about them. Okay, one of it is called the gallbladder, and the other one is actually called the pancreas. You eventually come across all these organs at the later part of your syllabus, but if you're curious about what are exactly their functions, right, because organs is supposed to serve a function, you can go and read up about it. Now these are for the animals, but what about the plants? Do you think plants actually have organs? Of course, the answer must be yes, because if not, how can they be a living organism, right? You need to have all this layering of organization. But what exactly could be an example of an organ for a plant? Just now I mentioned that tissues are things like the supporting tissue, the vascular tissue. So what do you think could be an organ when you have all these tissues being grouped together? Yeah, I hope you are thinking about this. For plants, right, the organs are actually the leaves, the stems, the roots, the flowers, etc. So it might be a bit weird for you to think about this, but for a plant, right, the flower is actually an organ. So every time when you're holding a flower, or when you're touching the leaf of a flower, you're actually touching the organs itself. Okay? Or when you're touching the leaf of the plant, or the roots, the stem, these are actually the organs of the plants. It's quite different from an animal, because an animal, their organs, right, is usually found within the body itself. Of course, besides your eyes, your hands, your legs, your nose, etc., your stomach, everything else is all found within the body itself. So it might be a bit hard for you to imagine, but for the plants, right, all the things that you see on a day-to-day basis is actually the organs of the plants. Moving on, how do you go further when you arrange all these different organs together? Now, when you have different organs coming together for a particular function, okay, you notice here again, we are talking about a specific function. This is actually what we call now an organ system. Now, organ system is something that you might have come across in primary school. So you may have seen certain systems such as the circulatory system, which consists of the organs of the heart, organs of the arteries, organs of the veins. These two are actually a type of blood vessels. Okay, they are types of blood vessels. Of course, you also have your respiratory system. Now in humans, right, there's a lot of different kind of organ system. Your respiratory system is made up of your lungs, tracheal, bronchi. Now, tracheal is what you usually learn in primary school as the windpipe. Okay, but now in secondary school, we actually call it in a different term. In digestive system, which you might be even more used to, you have your mouth, your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, and other organs that's involved inside. So for animal system, right, it's actually something that we are very related to, or rather, something that we feel very relatable to because we know it on a day-to-day basis. For example, this entire first one, your skeletal system, right, your skeleton. The second one, any idea what it is? So the first one is actually your skeleton system. The second one, if you look at it, there's the brain and there's the spinal cord. So this is actually your nervous system. The third one, if you look closely, of course, you can see the heart in the middle with all the different blood vessels that's sticking out. This is actually your circulatory system. Circulatory because the blood actually circulates, that means it moves around the entire body. The fourth one, see your lungs over there. This must be your respiratory system, because this allows you to actually have oxygen being taken in from the air and allow you to pass out carbon dioxide. The next one is your digestive system. Now, but what about the last one? Okay, this is a bonus question. Go and find out what is the last system and let me know when you see me back in school. Alright, so these are just some examples of animal systems. Now, what about plants? Just now we mentioned that in plants the organs are leaves, stems, roots, flowers. So try to imagine when you try to group some of these organs together, are they able to serve a certain function? For example, does the stem and roots work together for a specific function that they need to collaborate together for it to work in a plant? Using that as a guide, the plant organ system are actually one of the most obvious one is actually the transport system. The transport system of the plant actually consists of the roots, the stems, as well as the leaves. Purpose is to transport water, food, as well as other substances to various parts of the plant. Now, some examples of other substances could be mineral salts, because your plants actually need certain mineral salts from the soil to grow better. That's why sometimes you all have heard of this word called fertilizer. Now, fertilizer is added in to add in mineral salts so that the plants can grow better. So now, when you have all these systems, right, if you have all these systems working together, it actually will make up the entire organism, which is the living thing that we know of. And this is actually the case for multicellular organisms, because in multicellular organisms, cells will actually organize themselves. Similar cells organize themselves to form tissues that serves a specific function. Different tissues organize themselves together to serve a specific function, and this is what we call an organ. So organ must be made out of many different tissues coming together. Many different organs coming together for a specific function is what we call an organ system. And of course, when you have all these organ systems coming together, your respiratory system, your circulatory system, your digestive system, etc., you form the living thing that you know today as your organism. So this is actually the level of organization that we have within all living things, especially, or rather, within all multicellular organisms. But for unicellular organisms, like this one you see over here, the amoeba, they don't have such systems. They don't have organ systems, they don't have organs, they don't have tissues, because they are unicellular, which means that they are only a single cell organism. So there's no way that you can have many different cells coming together or many similar cells coming together. So it's just not possible. Which means that for these unicellular organisms, right, they have to function in a very efficient way. Because not like us, right? You see, like when your mouth is talking right now, your ears can be listening, your hands can be writing, your feet can be shaking. Because you have all these different organ systems in place to allow all these things to happen at once. But for the unicellular organisms, they can't really have this ability, right? If they want to feed on something, they might not be able to do something else at the same time. So this actually shows you how complex and how privileged multicellular organisms like us humans are, and how much more developed you are. Okay, this actually gives you the ability to think, ability to create stuff, etc. And it makes you more efficient as an organism. The next concept that we'll explore is actually why exactly are there so many different specialized cells? Okay, because there must be a reason why we need different cells for different functions, right? If not, why can't we just have one cell that's like super powerful and can do everything? So this actually has to do with this concept that's called division of labor, which is something that we'll go through when we meet again in school. And that's all for this particular video. Do remember to complete the assignment as well as the comparison table for animal cells and plant cells that can be found on page 8. That's all. Thank you.